So, I mean, it's not a class, it's not a lecture, it's just to share some information about this, about the writing proposal in general. I mean, if the proposal is for SDB, the proposal for grant, the proposal for master, I mean, the concept is all the same. Usually, this information introduced under the course of research methodology, and but I try to make it more specific to your, I mean, to our SDB, since our SDB somehow is a little bit different with the other research work, like, I mean, either for research grant or for a master student, PhD student. There are many similarities, but the level is lower, since the requirement from final year student not to conduct a real research, but to learn how to, or it's like the first step to do research or to do research in the engineering environment. Okay, so if we start to, I mean, to define or to learn what's the word or what we mean by research here. I mean, research is represented by this research cycle that you can see. See, I mean, for research, from the word research, it's search, but you need to do research. So you are going to do more search about some terms, some fields, some areas, and so on, in order to collect information, got more knowledge, and come out with some ideas for either for your project or for your master or for your PhD, whatever. So if we, the research cycle here, start with the identify of the research area. So based on the title that your supervisor suggests for you during the beginning of this semester, so you are going to find what are the keywords of your title. So you are going to start to search for these keywords using the existing database, either as we mentioned before, for Google Scholar, IEEE Access, Elsevier, Scopus, Web of Science, whatever the database that available that I shared with you last time during the briefing. So you are going to start to identify your research area. Is it belong to robotics? Is it belong to automation? Is it belong to Internet of Things, wireless communication, renewable energy, whatever is the area that your project will focus on. So you start to identify the keywords of your title. After you know the keyword and you collect some information or data about your title of your SDB proposal, you are going to design your research study, because you already know people's what they already done in your field. So you can come out with some initial design for your project. This initial design here, you are going to use it in order to conduct your research. Design means you are going to lay out what you are going to do during your SDB, what you are going to conduct, what type of research you need to do, what type of fabrication, what type of implementation, what type of materials, and so on. So you are going to conduct research. After you conduct your research, you are going to come out with some result, and this your result need to be analyzed. So if you come out with a product, or you come out with a small prototype or model or whatever, you come out from your project as output in SDB2, you are going to analyze the obtained results from this research. Then your result will be published. So how will your result will be published? Your result will be published either in terms as a thesis that you are going to submit to the faculty and to the library, and others, they are going to use your thesis later on as a reference. So this is type of publication for hardware publication or hard copy publication. Then the second will be maybe your technical report. Your supervisor will publish it as a paper in a conference or in a journal and so on. So this will be your published result. If we can focus on the the first two steps here, which is identify the research area and design research study, with somehow half of the stage for conduct research, or this will be done during your SDB1, the rest will be done during your SDB2. So this is how the research cycle starts from you find other works, then you start to do your own research based on the other work. So for the framework for your research project, or for your senior design project, or any type of research here, there are four important questions you need to highlight. So this question that you need to know, or what you need to answer, is what are you going to do? So everyone, he collect his title in week 3 or week 2 with from the supervisor, and he doesn't know what he need to do, what his plan for research. So from where you can answer this question, or what are you going to do, the answer will be in your title, in your objective, in your scope. So in order to see or to answer this question, what I'm going to do in my senior design project proposal, so that means you need to come out with your title, you need to come out with your objective, and you need to come out with your research scope. These three things can answer the first question, which what are you going to do? The second question here, where are you going to do it, or why are you going to do it? I mean, why you need to do this research? It's not about your supervisor want to do it. It's not about you want to finish your degree. It's not about you want to graduate. Is the answer for this question here should be highlighted in your problem statement and contribution of your study. So these two sections, that is a part of your chapter 1 in your proposal, should answer this question: or why are you going to do this research? Why I need to develop this system? Why I need to develop that software? Why I need to do that model? So the answer here should be find in your problem, because if there is a problem, so this is the answer why you need to do research. Since the problem is there in the area that you are doing research on it, so the answer here, we need to do research to solve this issue or this problem. The third question is how we are going to do it. Let me go out. Wait. Maybe there are some, only one, see? So how are you going to do it? This, the answer will be in your research methodology and your research material, which is a part on chapter 3. So you are going to explain how you are going to accomplish your objective, how you are going to solve the existing problem, how you are going to achieve your objective of your research. The fourth question is, when are you going to do it? When means it's not specific date, it's not a specific day, but it is your Gantt chart, your plan of your research. Your SDB is one complete year. So I mean, you start from SDB 1 until the end of SDB 2. Maybe we start in February, we are going to finish in next January. So almost 1 year. So you need to have your Gantt chart and your project plan and milestones that you need to be achieved. For example, in the first 2 months, I'm going to do these things. Second 2 months, what are you going to do? Third 2 months, what are you going to do? And so on until you complete the 1 year. Okay. So usually in general, the engineering research here, or the research in the engineering field, it's a little bit different with the research in the social science field. Because in social science, their research is more depends on data collection, more on survey, more on existing information, depends on humans, depends on reflection or reaction from human, depends on human answer for several questions and so on. But in our engineering research, our focus will be more on systems, more on hardware, more on software. So it's not more on the it's not directly related to humanity, or I mean, or to human reaction, or to human answer, or information collected from human, but it's more depends on hardware and software. So what you need, or what are the steps that you need to carry out in order to accomplish your engineering research, either for your final year project or for master student and so on. So the first step is investigating the existing work limitations. So this is the first step you need to do for when you start your SDB1. it's need to explore the existing work, which is more related to your system. As we mentioned before, we said we have keywords. We are going to find some related words to our keywords. Then we are going to read this keyword, this word, and summarize and come out with some of their limitations and constraint. So this can be done by conducting a comprehensive literature review. When you say comprehensive literature review, that means it's not just to read one paper, it's not to read two papers, it's not to read 5 papers. Comprehensive means at least each one need to read at least 20 papers, need to summarize at least 20 papers related to his work. So he come out with some comparison and so on. So what is the outcome of this step here in your research or in your engineering research? The first outcome will be your chapter 2 complete. Chapter 2, that means based on this step, you are going to write your chapter 2, which will be the first part in your thesis or in your proposal. Well, chapter 2 is the literature review chapter, in addition to some parts of chapter 1. So based on your investigation and your exploration for the existing work, you are going to summarize your research background. You are going to come out with the motivation to do your research, why I need to do this research, why this field is important, why my project will be important for community, why my project will be important for industry, and so on. So this will be your motivation. And also problem statement, which come out from the highlight of the constraint in the existing work, or the disadvantage, or of the existing work you are going to compare, then you come out. So these 3 parts, which is research background, motivation, and problem statement, will be under chapter 1, and the complete chapter 2. All this depends on your literature review. So it's not your work, but it's depends. It's your reading for other work. It's your summarizing for other work. It's the knowledge that you are going to collect in your field or in your study. After you do the literature review and you come out with chapter 2 and some part of chapter 1, you need to complete chapter 1, because chapter 1 consists from several parts. So since we only have 3 parts here, so there is more parts. From where we can get the rest of chapter 1 is from the proposed a better solution or idea for the existing problem. After you know the problem in your field, the problem statement, so you can come out with the idea to propose. Actually, the idea is by default, is you already have, because it is the idea of the proposal or the title of your project that your supervisor proposed before. But maybe your supervisor have a general idea about the project, but he doesn't go in deep of the on the project. So this will be your task. When you read the other works, you come out with some ideas, you discuss with supervisor, then you will come out with one, with finalized idea or finalized solution for your project. Then your solution should come to overcome the limitation of the existing approach, and you are going to complete your chapter 1 here, which is objectives, research scope, research significance, or research contributions. So this is the part, these are 3 elements, which is about the rest of the component of chapter 1 that you need to highlight. So you are going to come out with objective to solve the problem that you already highlighted in the first part, and research scope, which totally depends on your objective, and research significance and contribution, which come out also depends on what are the contributions of your work when you solve this issue or these problems. Okay. Then we are going to you are going to design the solution. So design the solution by using the first step of your research methodology. So either by using simulation and modeling, you are going to come out with your general research methodology, your material selection, and as well these 3 or 4 sections in your research methodology chapter, which is more on the methodology flowchart, which are the steps that you are going to follow in order to achieve your objective, the schematic diagram, how is your system system looks like, what are the components of your system, how you are going to do the wiring, how you are going to connect your, for example, your sensors with your controller, with your actuators, and with your server, how you are going to fabricate your part, and so on. So all this can be, you are going to get it in this phase of your engineering research. So also you are going to highlight the Gantt chart and milestones in addition to general system architecture. All these parts on these slides, you are going to complete during SDB1, starting from chapter 2, chapter 1, and some part of chapter 3, which is more depends on the, the design part, not the fabrication or implementation part. If you do fabrication and implementation, it's also its advantage. So you are going to complete your SDB faster than if you wait for SDB2. After you come out with your design, you need to develop the solution. In the beginning, you do the design using the simulation, use MATLAB, use the Proteus, whatever software that you use or tools. Now you are going to convert this design or this simulation into a real or practical hardware circuit and system. So you are going to develop your solution here. So you are going to do the fabrication part, optimization part, enhancement part, testing part, and so on. So this will be also under chapter 3, which include the implementation, functionality testing of your system, verification and metrics of your system, prototyping part of your system. So all this will be also under chapter 3. As you can see here, chapter 3, it's like you are going to write during proposal during SDB1 as a proposal, but it's not finalized. During SDB2, you are going to finalize based on the obtained information from the real fabrication or real implementation of your system or your design. The last step will be the performance analysis of your system and validation. So validation means you are going to check, is your system achieved the goal? Is your system is similar to the existing system? Is you are going to compare your system with some of the existing system. You are going to compare, for example, the lab test or the lab experiment with the real experiment. You are going to use some of the, for example, I'm going to use, for example, voltage sensor. So I'm going to take the reading from my voltage sensor that I use in my project, and I am going to use the multimeter to measure the real voltage. So in this case, I'm going to validate my readings. So to be sure that the readings that I got from my system is correct, the values are correct, and my system is performed well. So in this case, we call it the performance analysis and validation. And this will be the last step in your senior design project 2. So you are going to report your main finding and come up with conclusion. This part you are going to write your chapter 4 and chapter 5. So chapter 4 will focus more on result and discussion, data analysis and validation, and chapter 5 will focus more on the conclusion and recommendation for future work. So as you can see here, you have a big portion during SDB 1 in terms of knowledge, in terms of collecting information, in terms of writing, and you have bigger portion in SDB2 in terms of hardware, installation, connection, hands-on, and so on. So try to use, as I always advise SDB students, use the 2 months in between semester 1 and semester 2, in between SDB1 and SDB2, to top up on your part for senior design project. Any question, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is your thesis structure, and when I talk about thesis, it is thesis or proposal. It is the same. The difference will be in your last 2 chapters. So your thesis or your proposal for SDB1 should include chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, plus expected results. So expected result or expected outcome of your project will be what you expect you are going to do during SDP2. It's like it's not final result, but what you expect. I mean, from the title of your project, from the objective of your project, from the scope of your project, you should expect what you are going to come out with. Okay, so you have some of explanation, just like one page for your expected result in your report, and also one slide in your presentation for SDP1. So what you are going to come out after you finish your project. So this will be your research proposal actually. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, plus expected result will give you your research proposal. For Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, this will be more on SDP2. Don't forget that SDP1 also should include either the report of your SDP1 should include the reference, because you are going to write Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and especially Chapter 2, there are a lot of reference you need to cite in Chapter 2 of the literature review. So your references will be also a part of your proposal, in addition to your title, your abstract, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, abbreviation that you are going to use in your project, symbols that you are going to use in your project and your thesis as well. So if you write your proposal correctly from the beginning, I mean during SDP1, you're not required to do a lot of effort during SDP2 in terms of the writing. Your focus will be on hardware fabrication, testing, and writing Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 only. But if you ignore proposal, you make it like very simple and no literature review, no methodology, nothing, then you come out during SDP2, be sure that you are going to lose your mark. You are going to I mean, since SDP2 is more credit than SDP1, and SDP2 is more individual than SDP1, which is more on in group. So take this opportunity, since you are group of 2 or group of 3, try to enrich your research proposal. Make it more strong, make it more detailed, make it more comprehensive. So during SDP2, if you want to make yourself better than your team, so try to add more, either on literature review chapter, either on methodology chapter, in your research chapter, to make your thesis different from your partner in your group member. So how the good research proposal can be, or what are the aspects or features of the good research proposal? Actually, for your case, since your title already there, so I mean, you may discuss with your supervisor if you think the title of your research is not good, or it has some of the missing keywords, need to be improved. Not totally change the topic, no, it's just to improve. So you can discuss with your supervisor to improve or to change some keyword, to make it longer, to make it shorter, add some abbreviation, whatever, based on the work that you are going to do. Because sometimes during SDP1, the student, they don't know what they are going to do, and the supervisor also have a general idea, so not sure which title should be for your SDP. You, during your research, you find this title much better. I mean, since you read, for example, 20, 40 papers, you already find many titles similar to your work. So try to come out with one title or improved title. Yeah, then you suggest to your supervisor. There is a form you just need to fill up, sign, and supervisor sign and submit to me, so can modify the title, but not to change the topic, totally change. Okay, so your title should be informative and precise, and should be catchy. Catchy means it has some of the catchy word or bombastic words which attract reader. When you read the title or the banner later on, when you present your title, or they said, wow, very, very good title. The title, they attract them, so they can follow up during your presentation. They can give you, or they will give you good mark. But if your title is not attractive, not good, I mean, not informative, use some of the confusing words, when people read, they don't know what inside this thesis or what inside this proposal. So this will make negative impact on your result and in your evaluation for your presentation or for your for your thesis later on. The second should be structured and conveniencing abstract. So one of the part of your proposal should be the abstract, and people, either your supervisor or the panel and the reader, also for you, when you go for literature review part, the first part you read in any paper is the abstract of the paper. So if the abstract is structured, you can know where is the problem that these paper are going to solve, where is the objective, what is the proposed work, what is the methodology they use, what is the result, what is the outcome of this paper or of this thesis. So this we call it structured abstract, because inside the abstract you can find all the elements of your thesis or your proposal. Then problem-oriented research background. The research background is the first part in your thesis. So it is the section 1.1 in chapter 1. So people, after they read research, the abstract, for example, and go to conclusion sometimes to compare the result and the open issues in your research, they return back to your research background. So research background will provide them with the motivation that may give you or the motivation behind the current research, why you are going to do this system, why you are going to develop this system for your senior design project. So we call it problem oriented. That means it's basically based on the problem statement that you find. So when we talk about problem statement, that means we are talking about the motivation behind the current research, why you are going to solve this issue and so on. So your problem statement should be clear. Clear means don't just copy paste whatever they write, people, or don't write one sentence that you think it is the problem. Problem statement should be clear, and there is a specific structure for problem statement we are going to see later on. But should be clear so the reader can understand what is the problem that you are going to solve when you design your project. Then concise and solid objective. So your objective should be solid and should be smart. Later on, we are going to go through these elements one by one. Then comprehensive and up-to-date literature review. So as we mentioned before, should conduct a comprehensive literature review and should be up-to-date. That means you are not going to cite some papers from 2010, 2015, 2013. At least, or maximum go for like 3 to 5 years. Like 2016, it's okay. 2015, maybe okay. But before that, it's become like not up to date. Sometimes there is some of the, the main work in the field, maybe from 2003, from 2000, like one paper or two paper, it's okay. But when your reference, most of your reference are outdated. So this means you are not follow up what the people are doing now. You ignore all the research that conduct after 2015, for example. All your references is 2012, 2010, 2009, and so on. So maybe people already solved the issue that you are going to solve now. So it's better to depends or on or to cite which is the most up-to-date literature review. Then cohesive and cohesive research methodology. So your research methodology should be clear what you are going to do, what are the research activities, what are the milestones of your methodology, what are the phases that you are going to conduct, what the material that you are going to use, how you are going to fabricate, how you are going to test, and so on. All the details about your research methodology should be there. So this will become a good research proposal. So if you consider all these issues, you can see from the title until the research methodology here is more on the research proposal. We are not talking here about the result or the, conclusion, because we are focused on the research proposal only, which is up to chapter 3. So we start from the first element, which is the title here, and we say the title already proposed by your supervisor. So if you plan or based on your reading for literature review, you find some better title or some suggestion for improving the title, some keywords you need to inject into the title. So you need to follow this advice or these tips in order to improve your title. Your title should be simple, precise, and concise and solid. So reflect overall research. So people who read your title, they understand what you are going to do or what you have been done. Then attractive by using catchy and bombastic keywords. Not use of ambiguous or confusing words in your title, so the people, they got lost. They don't know what you are talking about, what you have done, and what is in your proposal or what is in your thesis. So nobody will go in if the title of this paper is not good or the title of this thesis is not good. Nobody will try to take and read. Then signify area, type, and status of the proposed research. So it's, I mean, from your title, among the keyword in your title will be the area that you focus on. As we mentioned before, if we said for automation, so the word automation should be in your title. If we focus on robotics, so the word robotics should be in your title. So your title here should signify or emphasize on the area of your research. So big people later on will use this one as a keyword. So maybe people will cite your work in the future if you publish your work, for example, in a conference paper or in a journal. So people, when they find keywords, uh, I mean, they can reach to your work and they can cite your work. And it should be intelligible to non-specialists. So not only the one who understand, I mean, not shouldn't be like more specific to the area. I mean, if your panel come from different perspective, he cannot understand what you are talking about. I mean, should be clear for, or has some common keywords to be understandable by anyone, not only for those who are specialized in your field. So the title of your research here should explain sufficient detail. What are you going to do and why you are going to do it? The second is your abstract or executive summary here. So the abstract here represents the summary of the whole proposal or the summary of the whole thesis. So as we mentioned before, I told you the abstract should be structured. So structured means should has all the elements of your thesis or your proposal. So the structure of your abstract must represent the structure of the entire proposal or thesis or report, and should contain the major element like background, problem statement, objective, methodology, result or expected results, and also conclusion. All these elements should be there in the abstract. Even the abstract is no more than 1 page, but you need to summarize every part. You need to summarize, you have 1 sentence or 2 sentences about the background, 1 sentence about the problem statement, 1 sentence about the objective, 1 sentence or 2 sentences about methodology, 1 sentence or 2 sentences about your result, 1 sentence or 2 sentences about the expected outcome and conclusion of your work. I mean, it's come out like usually the abstract or the good abstract are roughly from 300, 200 to 300 words, but for thesis or for proposal can be up to 1 page. So maybe if you are going to write your thesis later on during SDB2, so you need to add more information to abstract because you already have your result, you already have your conclusion, you already have some future suggestion for future work. So your abstract will be more or bigger, but for a proposal, I mean, up to 300, it will be much suitable. So avoid to use personal experiences and opinion in the abstract. Abstract should be focused more on the work, not about your behavior, your attitude, or your experience, your skills. No, it's more on the work itself. Avoid using reference or quotes in abstract. So abstract cannot have reference. I mean, you cannot cite other work. Abstract should be your pure work, should be your pure language, your pure words, your pure work. So don't use any statement or sentence from other work just uncite. It's not allowed to add references in your abstract. So this is the second element of the proposal here, which is the abstract or executive summary. So your abstract should be informative, should be short and simple here. And the good abstract here has some of the, features which make this abstract is good. So like it present the project concisely and coherently, state the significance and justifications clearly, use one developed paragraph. It's not two paragraphs, it's just one paragraph for the whole thesis or for the whole proposal. Provide logical connection. So when you talk about the introduction, about the background, about the problem statement, don't just mention it as a separate sentence. You should link between all these sentences. Use some of links or some of the words for connection, like however, while, furthermore, moreover, in addition. Try to link the sentence in your abstract to become more coherent and more concise. So also use passive verb. Try to avoid to use I, he, she pronouns. No need. Not allowed to use either in abstract or in the whole thesis. You are not allowed to use these pronouns. Try to use like passive forms, future passive, whatever. In terms of writing or present perfect, past perfect, whatever. So try to avoid the active sentence. For the proposal, you during the writing of the proposal, it should be focused more on the future, because in the proposal you didn't do anything yet. So it's a proposal, so you plan to do. So always try to use the future tense or the passive future. Will be developed, will be integrated, will be designed, okay, or will do, will da, like this one. So you are going to talk about the future. So try to avoid something which, because you didn't do anything yet, you just plan to do. Okay, so this about the abstract, which is the second element. So remember, although the abstract comes first, it's the first part in your thesis, but it should be proposed last. Prepared last. So you cannot write the abstract in the first day of your SDB. You cannot write it in the first month of your SDB. No, you should write the abstract at the end of your SDB1 and update it at the end of your SDB2. Okay, because when you write abstract, you should already know everything inside your thesis or your proposal. You cannot write the abstract for something is not there. So abstract usually for something already there, you already know what you have done or what you are going to do. So you just write the abstract at the end of your proposal or your thesis. Okay, what to do first? You are already now in week 8 and you still don't know what to do first. I know some of you already read maybe 1 paper, 2 paper, 3 papers. Maybe they watch some videos. Some of you already find some materials. Some of you already borrow some hardware from the lab or from their supervisor to start to do testing. But all this is not the correct way to start. So the correct way to start here is to find the research gap in knowledge, research question to be answered, and open issue to be solved. If you do not have these things, so it's just you are wasting your time. If you do not have research gap, if you do not have research question, if you do not have open issue or limitation in existing system, so you are wasting your time now. So the best way to start is to conduct literature review and come out with your problem statement. Without the problem statement, you cannot go to do your research. The idea here is not just, you are not required to fabricate the system. You are not required only to come out with your prototype. I know SDB is prototype is important and maybe give you more mark, but also your evaluation by your supervisor later on. It depends on your report. It depends on your academic writing. It depends on your technical report, your thesis, and so on. So the writing here and the summarizing of the literature and the way of come out with your objective, your problem, your scope, and so on is very important to make your SDB successful. So the way to start is, or the place to start is to conduct the literature review, read, collect information, come out with some idea about the project, come out with some limitation of the existing system, so you propose your solution for these problems. So for research background here, which is the element 1.1, the first element in chapter 1, you are going to, this research background is very important. As we said, it's highlight, it's the first paragraph that the reader will read after your abstract. After the title abstract, they go to research background. So what, the way of you are going to write the research background, which is the first part you are going to write after you complete your chapter 2, which is the literature review. So it should be more attractive to reader, should attract the reader or get their attention, because during the presentation later on for SDB1 or for your thesis for your poster in SDB2, the first part that you are going to present is your research background. So what is your what's the background of your research? What are you going to do? Before you talk about what you are going to do, tell them what is the situation in your field. How is the current situation of the systems or similar system or existing system or market available systems in your field? Then how people they propose a solution, and what are the disadvantage for the proposed solution, and what is the advantage of your proposed solution? Rising the limitations of the existing work, and at the same time emphasize on your contribution or your proposed solution. So do I need to be smart for that? You need to be smart to find which or what sentence you need to put in your research background. Because if you just copy paste from other work, if you do not know which one in the paper represent the background, so this is a big issue. The first paragraph, especially the first paragraph in your research background, should be written carefully, because if the reader read this paragraph and does not like, he will not go further. He will not go to see your objective. He will not go to see your problem statement and your scope. He will escape. Maybe if the reader is your panel or your evaluator, he will not go through it. He will give you like 1, 1, 1, 1, or 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, or 5. 2/5 or 1/5. So that means you do not provide or you do not attract him to the field. Maybe your panel is from you are doing robotics, and your panel is from renewable energy. It's not related. So how to attract him to the field? How to draw him to your area? So in the beginning, you should show some, a good figure in the research background. There should be one figure, at least one figure, to attract or to show or to describe the work that you are going to do, or not your work, maybe from the existing literature. Later on, I'm going to share with you some slides for presentation to see how to attract the people to your presentation or to your field. Then how to get the information that to put in your research background in each paper, each research paper that you are going to read or to download as your reference. Try to go to not the first introduction, the first section in your in introduction the paper. No, there is some the paper they put like 2 or 3 paragraphs at the end of introduction. They focus more on the motivation behind their work. Maybe the first paragraph is general information. They go to the second paragraph, they start to do some about the motivations. So you need to find the motivation behind your work, so you put it to attract in your research background. So if I'm stupid, what should I do? So if you cannot write a good paragraph or a good first paragraph in your research background, which will attract the panel or attract the reader to your work, to go through your work, so better to skip the first paragraph. You can go for the second paragraph. Keep one paragraph to the end. After you already understand everything about your project, you can write the first paragraph. Always like this one. If you stuck at some part, just skip, go for the next. Then return back again after you got more knowledge. For that, we said for abstract, for example, since the abstract is the most important part, before the research background, abstract is most important. So we said abstract will be written the last part in your proposal or the last part on your thesis. Same for research background. If you cannot write a good introduction for your work, if you cannot highlight the motivation behind your work, if you cannot attract the attention or get the attention of the reader, so just skip it, go through later on. Then you see, you can go to find some similar work, how they introduce their work, how to some similar thesis, some similar dissertation. You can see how people they read the first introduction or the first paragraph in introduction, then you proceed with. This about the research background. So the good research background here should be innovative and creative and problem-oriented. Problem-oriented, as we mentioned before, is based on the problem statement and it highlights the motivation behind your current work. Should be bravely elaborate the research title keywords. We said in the title you have several keywords. You may have 3, 4 keywords in your title, like for example, robot, IoT, Internet of Things, wireless communication, renewable energy, whatever is the keyword in your title here. So you need to define. I mean, like if you have 3 keywords, so you add 3 paragraphs. For each keyword, you have 1 paragraph, for example, in your research background. If you have 4 title keyword, you add 4 paragraph at least. When I say at least, means at least. Maybe you can add more. You can add 2 paragraphs. You can add, but I mean, try to be brief and focus. Because remember that this research background is not all the information that you have, because you still have chapter 2, complete chapter about the background. So I mean, in chapter 1 only, you need to select the best part of information or of knowledge related to your topic. You put it in research background, but the details will be explained later on in or already explained in chapter 2, since we said chapter 2 written first. So I mean, the details already written in chapter 2, but chapter 1 only have this background. Should be brief definition for your keywords. You still there or not?
Yes, that's
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Because
sir.
I don't know if the
Yes,
if the internet
okay.
disconnect, I will not. Okay. Then you need to show you have done through a literature review. How to show that you have literature review? Because in the research background, you must cite the most recent references. I mean, if you have references, for example, 2021, so this such reference 2021, 2020, 2020, this reference should be appear clearly in the first research background. I mean, in chapter 1 in research background part. Why? Because this shows that you already conduct a literature review. You already have an idea. You should mention, maybe you can cite more than 5 to 6 references at the same time. I mean, for one paragraph, you add 2, 3, 4 references, okay. But don't repeat the reference. I mean, if I already mentioned reference 1, no need to repeat it again in the second paragraph, reference 1, in the third paragraph, reference 1, no need. Just each reference should be cited 1 time only. So no need to be repeated. To be redundant. Then support the need for the project. How you can support the need for project? You can support it from the problem statement that they already mentioned before. I mean, depends on some study. For example, you can say, according to reference number 3, they mentioned that this area has these limitations. Or according to reference 3, there is these limitations. So you should support your idea here. Then cite the most recent related, as we mentioned before, and leads to an advancement of knowledge. Your background should show some motivation. I mean, you are not going to use the existing technology. You are going to try to use some of the technology that people not use yet. For example, I mean, there are many research, for example, using Arduino. So for example, I am going to use like Node MCU, for example, like this one. I mean, the idea is try to show that you do something different with others. Show others who focus in one side and go for the other side. Your focus for your research will be in the side that has less attention from community and less attention from academia. Okay, so you need to rise up this issue that you have something new you are going to introduce in your project, even if it's not new, but you should rise up. Because if you didn't show that you have something new, people will not be interested in your work because they said, oh, there are many videos in YouTube already there for this same project. But each one do it by his own way, even in the way of connection, even in the way of number of sensor, even in the way of type of controller, in the way of type of communication interface, type of, maybe some people they use small solar panel, other people they use bigger solar panel. So I mean, there is some differences. Maybe in the enclosure of your project, even in the enclosure, we have defined portable interface. We have, or I mean, we design portable enclosure. We have user-friendly interface. We have, I mean, try to rise up some of the innovation or innovative things in your work or in your that you are going to consider in your research. After research background, you are going to write your problem statement. Even your problem already know when you conduct the literature review. Research background already know when you conduct literature review. Now you want to translate it into your, or to summarize into chapter 1, because we said chapter 2 is the first chapter you write. In chapter 2, you already have a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that you already summarize, a lot of tables that you compare the existing work. You come out with some issues, some limitations. So this issue and limitation, you need to convert it into paragraph. For example, if I said the existing system are expensive, so my system should be cheap. If I said the existing system are complex, my system should be simple. If I said the existing system are not efficient in terms of energy consumption, my system should be energy efficient. If I said the existing system are not or does not have user-friendly interface, my system will have user-friendly interface. The existing system, they do not support the remote control, for example. Some limitation in chapter 2, you come out with them from the existing system, then try to form them in the as a paragraph. For some issue, you combine into a one paragraph, then go to the next paragraph, go to the third paragraph. Usually the problem statement shouldn't be more than 1 page, for example, or 1 page and a half. I mean, if you write like 2-3 paragraphs, so it will be like 1 page to 1 page and a half. You need to summarize the existing limitation. You need to be, your literature should be not only your problem, it's not your supervisor problem, it's problem in the research community. All people already say this is problem, not only you. So, but you need to cite them. You need to say, these people said this problem, that people said this is a problem, and so on. I mean, like, they are like, all they agree that there is a problem in this field. So this problem here will be also like a basis for your introductory. I mean, like when you write your research background, we said it's problematic or problem based or problem oriented. That means in the research background, you are going to talk about motivation behind your work. But in the problem, you need to go directly to the problem. And you need to identify 3 main parts of your problem. Okay. So the first, the problem statement comes from your conducting for literature review. Then you are, I mean, in the paper that you are going to find or to download, there is some part in each paper they highlight the problem. Either in the abstract they write like 1 sentence or 2 sentences. Also, the end of each paper you can find the problem that they mention. Okay, the problem from the paper when you read. I mean, each paper that you download, conference paper, journal paper, whatever, they write the problem that they are going to solve before the objective. Before the word therefore, you can find the problem. After the word however, you can find the problem. I mean, you read the keywords that can help you, to detect the problem in your field. If I never read my project, I need to go for abstract and press 2 lines in the abstract about the problem. Then I go to end of introduction. Also, I come to the problem. Then I write. I say problem blah blah. Then you grab the problem, you summarize, then hold what and keep your problem in chapter 1. Then keep it to go to objective. When you go to objective, you must remember what is your problem that you are going to solve. If I said, as I told you, if I said the existing systems are expensive, my existing system not available in the local market, for example, my system will be available in local market. I mean, try to find some way to link between your objective and your problem statement. And your objective must solve the existing problem. Don't write the problem is the existing system are very expensive and we are going to develop energy efficient system. It's not like this one. I mean, should be the keywords that you use in the problem to rise up the problem is the keyword to propose the solution. Okay, so the problem statement is the focal point of your research. Any research proposal, any research thesis, either for master, for PhD, any research grant application, always they first focus on the problem statement. If you do not have problem, no need to do research. If you cannot come out with a problem from your literature review, no need to conduct the research, because the research comes to solve problem. Research comes to answer the research question. Research comes to do not have this thing, no need to go for further. No need to do research. Okay, so if the panel, if your panel, I mean, if you said the existing market has system which costs like 2,000 ringgit, we are going to develop a system which is 100 ringgit. So this one is like you would propose solution to some of the I mean existing problem. But if this system is available in the market by 50 ringgit and you propose system by 600, and you mention in your proposal to propose a cost effective or cheap, I mean it's not logical. You must be more logical when you write your problem. Try to get some support from other works. Try to get some supporting word or sentence from other papers. Read, understand, summarize, compare. So in this case, you can come out with your problem. As I told you, your proposal is there, but maybe your supervisor only have the proposal. He doesn't have anything else. He have the title only. I mean, he has the title and he doesn't have the details. So you are required to do this research. You are required to prepare this problem. You are required to write the objective. Then your supervisor will give you like comments for this one. I mean, don't say, oh, it's a problem of my supervisor. It's not my problem. No, it's not like this one. It's not your or it's not his problem. It's problem of research community. As we mentioned before, 1 page is more than enough for problem statement, and it can be like 1.5 pages if you write 3 to 4 paragraphs. But usually 3 paragraphs is more than enough for problem statement. Persuasive problem statement here consists of 3 main parts. So there are, as I mentioned before, I said it's the way of writing problem statement is not just write a sentence. Don't say the existing system in the market are not efficient. Full stop. No. Don't say the existing system in the market are very expensive. This is not a problem. Problem is not one sentence. And the problem is not just one word. Yes, there is one keyword, there is 2 keywords, but it's not just one sentence. You need to write a complete paragraph. So how to write complete paragraph, or what the elements should be highlighted in this complete paragraph? The first one is the ideal case. Ideal case, it explains how things should be in this field. I mean, I'm talking about, for example, for smart home. So I'm going to introduce what should be there in smart home, what people should do in smart home, or what the facilities that should be provided in the smart home. So in this case, you explain the ideal case. I mean, based on your experience, based on your reading from other work, what you can summarize, what is the ideal case for this field, for example. After that, you are going to write what is the reality. Reality means what is the current situation. When we talk about the, for example, the worldwide energy consumption, I mean, how many power and so on, and most of the power is generated by using, for example, fuel, by using nuclear and so on. So we about the real situation. How many, for example, but what is the problem in the real situation? It should be highlighted also in this part. So in the reality part, it's explain how the ideal state. We need like more clean resources to produce energy, so decrease the CO2 in the atmosphere and so on. But this is the ideal one. But the current one now, most of the existing power station use fuel, for example, to produce electrical energy. So in this case, this is the real situation that we have. How we can solve this will be the proposal or the idea of your objective. So, for example, we are going to produce or to produce more or to implement more solar panel. I mean, solar farm, for example. So, solar farm here, for example, will increase the power generated by using renewable source. It will decrease the power which is generated by conventional source, and so on. I mean, the idea here is these three parts should be all considered in each paragraph. I'm going to write 3 paragraphs. So in each paragraph, I should highlight these 3 things: the ideal case, the reality, and the consequence. The consequences here is depends on what you are going to propose. I mean, you can conclude with one sentence. For example, you said there is a real need to develop more renewable energy resources. There is a real need to build more solar farm. There is a real need to build more wind farm and so on. I mean, you come out with one sentence at the end of each paragraph, which gave you or knock the door to go for your objective later on. You not need to write your objective exactly, but you should this consequence here should open the door for you to write your objective later on. If I said there is a real need to build a system or to build a system for smart home automation, that means in my project, in my objective, I'm going to say to develop a system for home automation. If I said that there is a real need for develop or to implement more solar panel or more solar farm to increase the energy produced from the renewable energy resources, in my objective, I'm going to say to implement or to develop more solar panel. I mean, this is the idea. This is the idea how you need to write your problem statement. Should consider 3 things: ideal case, reality, and consequence. Okay. Then we come to research objectives and how to write your research objective based on your problem. We already write research background. We already write the problem statement. Now, how to write our research objective here. So the research objective should tell how smart you are to solve the problem. I mean, we have a problem and we want to solve. So how we can solve this problem, and by proposing a new idea, by proposing a new system, what we need to accomplish at the end of this project. Okay, so objective here represent the steps that you are going to take to answer your research question or the task to accomplish in order to finish or to solve the existing problem. Objective here, the way of writing objective is very important because they will determine the rest of your proposal. Starting from objective, as we said, the problem or the objective based on problem, but the rest of your proposal will based on your objective. Objectives based on the problem statement, but the rest of your proposal will based on your objective. So as we mentioned before, your objective should be smart. So what we mean by smart here? Smart mean it should be specific. Specific means you need to specify exactly what you are going to do. What are the objective or the goals that you need to accomplish in your research? M is for measurable. So at the end of your SDB2, we can measure your objective. If you said you to design a system, that means the output will be like system design. If we said to fabricate a system, that means the output will be a fabricated system. If we said to evaluate a system, that means the output will be result for evaluation of the system. So it should be measurable. It should be achievable. That means you can achieve at the end of your SDB. Don't make objective which you cannot achieve. Don't say we are going to develop blah, 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 blah. Then the end, you cannot develop anything. I mean, don't promise in your objective, think that you cannot achieve later on. Try to be more realistic. So the output of your objective will be more real. It's not something which is not cannot accomplish, cannot be achieved, cannot be real implemented of your work. Also, time frame. That means should be defined with time. I mean, in your time, I mean, Gantt chart, you need to define when you are going to achieve objective 1, when you are going to achieve objective 2, when you are going to achieve objective 3. So you need to emphasize on how aims are to be accomplished. So when you say to develop a system, you need to say how to develop by using blah, blah, blah. I mean, to develop a system for that using, for example, Arduino and these sensors. I mean, you need to be more specific and more details to show how you are going to accomplish your objective. Then must be highly focused and visible. Address the more immediate project outcomes. Each outcome of or the outcome of each objective represent one of your milestones of your research later on. So at the end of each phase of your research methodology, for example, you are going to come out with some result. This result represent the output or outcome of your objective. Then make accurate use of concepts and must be sensible and precisely described. So I mean, don't use some words in your objective which is not clear or need more explanation. Try to be more direct, use scientific words, explain, be brave. No need to write everything in the objective. You can say to design this system by using that material, for example, to fabricate this system by using this method, to evaluate this system by using that method. Okay, so use word that reflects your prototype development. Since you are your senior design project outcome expected to be one of prototype, so try to use like word which can show that you are going to develop prototype. For example, you say to develop, you say to fabricate, you say to implement. Okay, use result-oriented words. So the words here show at the end of chapter 4, you are going. I mean, during SDB2 in chapter 4, you are going to show some result of your work. So the result usually depends on objective. 2 to 4 objectives more than enough. I mean, for SDB, maybe 2 objectives, 3 objectives is enough. Usually, even for master, they do only 3 objectives. For PhD, maybe they go for 4 or 5 objectives. But for your SDB, just 2 to 4 objectives is more than enough. And don't make your objective is very short. I mean, don't say to develop a system, a smart system. Stop. Go for to fabricate. No, not like this. More details, more focus, but not a lot of explanation in the objective part. Should read as individual statement to convey your intention. I mean, each objective should be come out as like a complete sentence, an individual sentence. Maybe and should be in sequence. In sequence means don't start with performance evaluation of the developed system before you develop the system. Should go in sequence. You start from the first step, what you are going to do, then the second, what you are going to do, then the third, what you are going to do. Arrange your objective based on your research activities that you are going to perform during your SDB. So these some of the examples that, or some of the keywords that you can use for your objectives. You can say to develop, and you complete your sentence based on your project. To design, to investigate, to implement, to integrate, to model, to simulate, to compare, to analyze, to validate, to optimize, to fabricate, to prove, to drive, to characterize, to assess, to define, to determine, and so on. I mean, depends on, and try don't to repeat. I mean, don't say in the objective 1 to develop, in objective 2 to develop, objective 3 to develop. No, try to select different words. Avoid the redundancy in your either objective or in your thesis in general. Try to select different words. There are many words in English you can use or synonyms you can use for your objectives. So try to use, I mean, usually when we talk about SDB, when we prefer to use like design, develop, implement, integrate, because these things is the come out will be like prototype later on or a model. But if you do for fundamental research, you can do for characterize, I mean, determine, analyze, investigate, and this more on the, I mean, which I mean, can be the output cannot be or can be not a prototype. But if you want to prototype, better to use this word, which reflect that your outcome will be a prototype. Then after objective, you need to write your research scope, and usually research scope depends on your objective. And sometimes in some standard or some template of thesis, research scope will be written under the objective itself, or they said objective and research scope together. So research scope here specify the scope of your research. So focus area, tools, materials, parameters, performance metrics, everything related to your research, everything related to your objective will be highlighted. If I'm going to use, for example, MATLAB, I need to highlight that I'm going to use MATLAB. If I am going to use Proteus, I need to highlight to use Proteus. If I'm going to use Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Node MCU, whatever controller, I need to highlight in this part. Because if I mention it here, that means I make limitation for my work and I make it limited to these tools. If someone said, oh, I have the similar project, but I'm using this different controller, so it will be totally different with your work. Okay, then you need to link to your objective. So you need to highlight the scope based on objective. If you talk in the objective 1 on develop a system by using, for example, or to simulate a system by using MATLAB, simulate system by using Proteus, so you need to mention that one in your scope. So you need to highlight that means our system is limited to the simulation model that we use in MATLAB, or limited to the simulation model that we use in Proteus, and so on. You need to highlight these things, and you need to follow the objective sequence as well. Then you need to highlight the limitations of your research. So if your research here is limited to do, I mean, emphasize on your limitation. If your research not complete, for example, I develop an air quality monitoring system. So this air quality monitoring system, for example, you know, air, there is like hundreds of elements or in the air or gases. So I'm not going to monitor all elements. I'm going to focus, for example, on CO2 and CO. So I need to emphasize on this part. I said my system is limited to measure CO and CO2. So I need to highlight limitation, because people, if they read your title, maybe they expect it will be for everything. It's not for everything. You should highlight what are the limitations of your work. I don't want to go for break because I have, we have limited time. So there are many things here. So I'm going to continue since you are from home. We are not in the class. So anytime you can go out, return, up to you. Okay. You still there?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Continue, sir.
Yes, doctor.
Continue. I know you are. I'm talking and you are sleeping. Continue. Okay. I'll continue. Then significance of your research. So in your research proposal, you need to have this subsection in your section 1, and you need to present this one during your presentation. So significance of your research. How significant is your research? Why your research is important? This part actually, during your when you write your thesis later on, you are going to replace it either by using, you can leave it like significant of research, or you can also use another title like contribution of this study or contribution of the research. Contribution means what is the new thing that you develop, or what is the thing, the improved thing, or the enhancement that you propose or that you achieve from your system. Or here it represents the research novelty, and contributions. Actually, this significant of the study, and also to show how your project is useful for community, useful for industry, useful for public, to show or to emphasize on this part for research, and also to present that your research as a filler for the research gap. You have research gap, your research will fill this research gap, will overcome all the limitations that existing in the conventional systems. Demonstrate what are the benefits of your community and industry, and also research contribution are based on objectives. So if you have 3 research objectives, you should have 3 contributions. If you have 4, you should have 4. If you have 2, you should have 2. So I mean, and the keyword, if I said to develop energy efficient system, in my objective, in my contribution, or in the significant of research, I said an energy efficient system has been developed. Okay, or a new energy efficient system has been developed, or an enhanced energy efficient system has been developed, like this one. So should use the same keywords that you have in your objective. As for that, we mentioned before, we said objective is based on problem statement, and the rest of your proposal will based on your objective. So in everywhere you are going to see your objective, you should be linked to your objective, and so on. Expected outcome, and this one, expected outcome or expected results, this will be a part of your proposal but will not be there in your thesis later on. Okay, so when you write your proposal, you write expected outcome. When you present your proposal, you present your expected outcomes. But when you write your thesis, no more expected, because you already become reality. It's not expected anymore. So in the proposal, it is expected. But in thesis later on, no more expected. For that, during your proposal presentation, you need to highlight this slide, expected outcome, and you need to write it in your report or your proposal thesis proposal that you need to submit to your supervisor. So expected outcomes here during the stage proposal stage only, and will be omitted later on. Use passive future tense, because as we said, it's proposal, so you need to say a system will be developed, a system will be fabricated, a system will be investigated, like this one. So you are going to use like passive future tense. Result depends on the proposed objective. So I mean, if we said that our objective number 1, compare the existing work, so your result will be a comparison of the existing work. I mean, you are going to show some comparison. If you said evaluate the energy efficiency of this system, your result will be graphs for energy efficiency. If you said evaluate the, for example, the power or the current or the voltage, whatever, so your result will be the same elements that you mentioned in your objective should be come out as your result later on. So what do we wish to achieve? This will be our expected result. What we want to achieve at the end of this STB, for example. As we mentioned before, it's not to pass, it's not to complete study. No, we have some goals we already planned. We have some objective we already mentioned in the beginning of chapter 1. So in order to achieve these goals, we are going to come out with a system, for example, prototype, product, model, simulation model, algorithm, application, new theory, findings, knowledge, impact on society, community, and industry, or also even on nature. I mean, this will be the expected outcome of your system, of your project, or of your proposal. I mean, for example, you plan to develop a system model or system prototype, so you need to highlight this outcome will be a prototype for this system with these specifications. I'm going to work on develop mobile apps, mobile applications. So expected outcome, mobile application which can do blah blah blah. Explain about this mobile application. I mean, it depends on what is your project, and this will be your expected outcome. So this is the last section of your chapter 1. So usually chapter 1 has these elements, as we mentioned. I mean, as we mentioned before, starting from research background, and in research background, then we have problem statement, we have objectives, we have research scope, and we have the expected outcome. and also, I mean, before expected outcome, we have the research significance or significance of the study or research contribution. Okay, then expected outcome. So these are the elements for chapter 1, and we said chapter 1 usually written after chapter 2. After you finalize chapter 2 title, chapter 2 content, then you go to chapter 1 to come out to summarize your research background, your problem, and propose your objective and your solution for your for the existing problem. Then one of the main problem or one of the main concern when you write your proposal or when you write your thesis, you should link between all these elements. So you start from problem statement, objective will based on the problem statement, then scope and contribution and methods and result conclusion all will based on the objective. Problem statement is depends on other work, but objective is yours, then the rest will based on yours. The rest of these things, which is like contribution, methods, result, conclusion, all based on your objective. If you have 3 objectives, you expect 3 contribution, you expect 3 main steps in your methodology, you expect 3 type of results in your result, you expect 3 conclusion paragraph. If you have 4, you have 4, 4, 4. If you have 2, you have 2, 2. So it depends on your project proposal. Okay. So then chapter 2, even chapter 2 will be written first, but just I got to I try to explain in the sequence of the thesis or in the sequence of proposal. But this literature review, as we mentioned before, must be written first. Before you start to write anything, you should conduct literature review, come out with your problem, then you start writing chapter 2, go for return back to chapter 1 to complete chapter 1. So it should be first chapter you will write. A literature review here is a description of the studies relevant to your field or to your idea or to your topic. So shouldn't be more, I mean, shouldn't be just citation for research. It should be like when you read or when you summarize other work, you need to criticize their work. You need to come out with idea in their work. You need to come out with some section title, with some subsection titles, and so on. Because how you are going to fill up your proposal, how you are going to fill up your thesis from literature review. Literature review is the biggest part in your thesis. It's the biggest part in your proposal. So, for example, if your proposal is 80 pages, like 40 pages will be literature review, like 50%. So you are going to take a lot of information from other work, but you need to take it smartly. I mean, don't just copy paste. No, you need to write, take idea. I mean, to read, take idea, and then you write. So usually here, what's the most related study? You need to identify, this is at the beginning, you need to identify what are the most related studies to your project or to your proposal. Who are the key people in your field? This you can find the authors. Some authors, for example, you can find already have like 1,000 citation, 2,000 citation in this topic for this paper. You find one paper, it has like a lot of citations. So this is the people who have, I mean, the key player in this field. Okay, then how and why it have been done? Why they do this research? As we mentioned before, in the abstract and at the end of the introduction of each paper, you can know why they conduct this research or why they do this paper. Then what are the methods they use? This will be in their methodology. You can go in details after you, if you got interest with some papers, after you read the abstract, you go to the conclusion, you back to introduction, then you go for research methodology. You can find what is the method that they follow and what is the features or advantage of their system, what is the limitation and disadvantage of their system. And in this part there, you will come out with your problem. When you identify their limitation, you will come out with the problem that you are going to solve. Then, which can be selected as the best work. Sometimes you have, for example, 100 papers related to your topic, or maybe 1,000 papers, but you need to identify which one is more close to your work, which one is used, for example, the same controller, which one is used the same sensors, which one is used the same platform, which one is, I mean, try to use some of best work. Then you try to understand or go in details of it, then you adopt or modify to be your work. I mean, he used some sensors, you add more sensor. He used some controller, use different controller. He used some architecture, you use different architecture. He has his own application, you develop your own application. I mean, from this we call it the best work. The best work is the work that is more related to your topic, but it needs improvement. So who will do the improvement? You will be you will be the person who will do this improvement for this one. Don't say, oh, I am just undergraduate. Why how I can do improvement to this? Imagine that most of this paper also done by either undergraduate student or also maybe master student first year. So master student first year is the same like you. I mean, maybe if you just finish your LI, continue your master, become master student first year. I mean, there is no big gap in knowledge between you and between the master student. The master student will not study anything. He go directly to research. There is no subject need to take. I mean, there is some of the methodology subject which is the same like this topic about the research methodology. But I mean, there is no courses you need to take in order to become a master student. I mean, but there is some master student by coursework, but I am talking about the master student by research. So in this case, you need to be smart enough to pick up your idea from the published research work. So literature review in your thesis or in your proposal should be divided into two main parts. One, we call it the background theory, and this background theory actually consists from many or several sections and subsections. There are many sections and subsections in this part, which is background theory. So you are going to provide the details related to your topic, history, terms, definition, application, market survey, available product, whatever. I mean, related to your topic, you are going to divide it into different sections and subsections to fill up your chapter 2. Then start from the more general to more specific. You are talking about, for example, if we talk about, for example, energy meter. So in our case, if the project about energy meter, the energy meter is very conventional one. There is energy meter maybe since they invent the electricity, maybe in 1980s. I mean, in 18,000. 56, 57, like this one. I mean, maybe 1 century before. But how to come out with, to go from history, start from the general one, then go to the details, how this evolution come. What are the types that we can see, for example, in 1980s, 1990s, 2000, 2010, 2020, what are the generations for this type? Like for mobile, for example, when you talk about the mobile phone is not start as a mobile phone. It start like, I mean, the previously was no mobile. Then they start with a wire. There is no phone in the beginning. When then they go for phone. Then they go, I mean, for wire phone. Then they go start to make like some of the type of cellular, which is there just for few meters connection. Then they go to start to mobile, for example, and the first generation cellular network to second generation, third generation, fourth generation. Now we become at fifth generation cellular network. So I mean, you should highlight such information, which is show the history, definitions, and or related evolution in your field. You can show some graphs, some figures, and always try to add citations, either for the text, for the graph, for the table, for the figures. You need to add citation for them from where you take, based on which paper, based on which thesis, and so on. More details about your best work, the one that you select, as I told you, as a best work, so you need to focus more, explain more about it, cover all keywords of your title in details. In chapter 1, in research background, we cover the keyword, but as like in brief. We said 1 paragraph for each keyword, but here no. Here you are going to go in details. When we said, for example, a robot, so you need to go and report the details about the robot in your field. When you talk about the automation system, so you need to go in the detail of automation system. Okay, include figures and tables, cite this figure and table, and also need to provide overview about the similar hardware and software and tool components that you are going to use in your research. This is the first part. The second part will be related work, and related work is more on the papers that you need to review. I mean, the similar system to your system. So you are going to summarize, compare in tables, come out with idea to write your problem statement. Do classification, do categorization, do compare. You may highlight their advantage, highlight their limitations. At the end, you come out with your problem statement. So your problem statement will totally depends on related work part, not on the background. Background only just information, general information and details information about your field. But related work is the systems. If your title is a system to monitor traffic, for example, so you need to focus more on the traffic. I mean, all the systems that are available in the market to monitor traffic, you need to focus more on it. You need to summarize, highlight their limitations, highlight their advantage. Then you come out with your problem statement. So what sources are considered valid for literature here? When we say literature review, I don't want you to go to YouTube to copy link and put it as a reference. Don't go to Wikipedia to make it as a reference. Don't go to the blog or some of the forum in the internet and copy information from them and put it as reference. No, your reference must be valid reference. When we say valid reference, that means should be journal article, conference proceeding, survey papers, standard, technical paper, historical record, books, project report, thesis, dissertation, manual guidelines, government records, or newspaper articles. So shouldn't be too general. I mean, don't take the uncredible source. It must be credible source. It must be cited by others. I mean, not only you will be cited. Sometimes if you just write in Google, you are going to see the citation for each paper. How many people cite this paper? If there are many people, that means this paper is most credible sources, or these authors are main player in this field. These are some of the database that I shared with you last time. You can refer to in order to download papers and to write your literature review chapter, like IEEE Explore, Springer, Elsevier, Wiley, and so on. And this all available in the library, Brooksy library, Brooksy library of, UMB library. You can just access by using your ID, or maybe if you are in campus, so you can just access directly. Should I read everything? No, I cannot read everything. So it's not easy to read everything. I mean, for example, you find your keywords, you find like 100 paper, 1000 paper, 2000 paper. Try to do filtering for the paper that you download. Try to find the most related to your work. Try to focus more on the thing which is most recently published and most recently or more related to your work. So you don't need to read everything. Try to start from the most recent articles. Survey review paper. Survey review paper is the paper that, for example, in the survey paper, you can find 100 paper already summarized in one paper. So you can refer to it. I mean, depends on such paper. You just write the title or the keyword plus survey or plus review papers. So in these papers, you are going to find more details. And then read first the abstract and skip to the conclusion, then return back to introduction, then skip to methodology. I mean, try to switch. Don't just read it one shot from the first line to the end line. Try be more selective. Read critically. What can you take from the paper? What others said about it? You can find what others said about it. You find those who make citation for this paper. You can find their citation in Google Scholar. You can find who cited this paper. Then you go to download. You see how he talk about this paper. What he said. Is it okay? Is it not okay? Is it, has limitation or not? So it's easy for you to find your limitations. What need to be avoided here in the paper? Try to avoid the information which, don't read the information which is not related or far away from your work. Don't read, don't go in detail, something which is need some people who are specialists in the field. Try to take what benefit you more than the one that which make you disappointed or cannot to continue with the paper. Compare based on the select criteria for related work. As we mentioned before, you need to have table, compare this work and come out with their limitation and their issues. Criticize existing work. How to criticize? As I told you, try to find their limitation and or try to see what others said about them. Not only criticize the work. Others already criticized. So see how they criticize, how they said, what is the limitation of this paper, so you can come out with a conclusion about this paper. Okay, so you can criticize if the work, for example, if the work has developed a system, for example, for water quality monitoring, and this system for water quality monitoring, for example, he use Arduino, he use some sensor, he use some communication technology, whatever. Don't just read it as you to get knowledge. No, read it to find which part you are going to improve. For example, he used Arduino. Arduino has limitations. People, for example, say the Arduino has some limitations. So just when you want to criticize, say, however, this person used this Arduino and Arduino has this limitation. If people use Node MCU, say, okay, Node MCU, however, people said Node MCU has this limitation. I mean, try to read the paper and try to criticize based on your knowledge or based on what you are going to propose. Don't say, however, Arduino has limitation and you are going to use Arduino. No. Don't say Raspberry Pi is not good and you are going to use Raspberry Pi. Try to criticize in the way that you are not going to follow. You are going to do the opposite. Okay. There are some ethical consideration in the research when you, especially when you write your chapter 2. Since chapter 2, you are going to cite a lot of information from others, a lot of findings, a lot of theory part, a lot of examples and idea from other work. So you must to indicate from where you take these things. As we mentioned, must be from valid resources, valid research paper, journal, article, books, but you must cite. And you need to write this one in your text for your thesis. Either it's a text or figure or table, whatever, you must cite these references. You must acknowledge by citing the resource, because if you cite, that means maybe later on when you publish your work or your supervisor publish your work, you have acknowledged this guy because this guy already helped you to get some idea. So this is type of acknowledgement for the one that will do this research. So acknowledge sources using quotation. Sometimes if you cannot rephrase the sentence, you can use it as it is, but use the bracket. So I mean the quotation here to show that this is, I exactly take it from this reference. I do not change. This for example for like equation, I mean some of the definition and so on. So you cannot change, you cannot rephrase. So you just use it as it is, then you can add some of the this quotation. Citing reference in the text, paraphrasing when needed to avoid plagiarism here. Okay, writing the reference list at the end of your thesis or your proposal. So there are some tools which can help you to do this one. We already mentioned before, which is like EndNote, Mendeley, in order to index your references and generate list of your reference at the end of your proposal or your thesis. And also Turnitin. You can ask your supervisor to give you or to create an account for you to check your thesis or report similarity. So later on when you submit your thesis, it must be less than 20% similarity index with other works. Okay, the chapter 3, which is research methodology that you are going to write here, is the way for systematically solve the research problem. And I mean, in the objective, we highlight what we are going to do, but we do not say how we are going to do it. It's more about how to perform the research from A to Z. How I am going to design, how I'm going to develop, how I'm going to evaluate, how I am going to investigate, whatever I'm going to do it, how. Its methodology is to answer the question, how you are going to do these things. So there are several steps for research methodology here. And these research methodology steps divided into two parts, one in SDB1 and other in SDB2, as we already mentioned before. So starting from the methodology phase is here, the one that you need to define clearly in your proposal. So what you are going to do in phase 1, in phase 2, in phase 3, in phase 4, and in phase 5, and so on, depends on how many phases of your research methodology. For example, in phase 1, we are going to conduct literature review, identify the problem. In phase 2, we are going to do the design. In phase 3, we are going to do the implementation, whatever. So you need to define clearly what are the phase of your research. Then you need to add your methodology flowchart, and this is the most important part of your research methodology, which is explain how the research flow of your proposal, from where you are going to start and where you are going to stop. So then stop design, I mean system design layout. So you need to come out with the design layout of your system, either using some simulation tool, using a hands drawing, whatever. So you need to design your layout of your system. You need to do simulation modeling to check if your system will work or not. So you are, I mean, you are not going to buy the material, then the material will not work with your design. You must check your design first. How to design, to check using suitable simulation tools for your proposal or for your project. Then component selection. At the end of research methodology for chapter 1, I mean for SDB 1, you are going to come out with the list of the components that you are going to buy for your project in SDB 2. Okay, so these are the I mean the part that you need to include in research methodology for chapter 1 in SDB 1, in addition to any information you already achieved. I mean, if you go for the next phase, you just include in your research methodology for proposal for SDB 1. If you stop here, just continue after you finish SDB 1. So what you are going to do during SDB 2 here, hardware software development. I mean, if you are lazy to do something related to SDB 2 in SDB 1 time, but it's better to do all these things during your SDB 1 and in the 2 months between SDB 1 and SDB 2. Hardware and software development, prototype or design fabrication, system testing and verification, system implementation and development, performance evaluation and validation. So all these parts is more related to the hardware development, software development, circuit design, wiring, installation, soldering, fabrication, prototyping, whatever is related to your hard system or your prototype, it will be done during research methodology chapter in SDB 2. So verification also, testing functionality, validation of your system, which will give you the result later on. All this will be a part of your research methodology. I mean, you are not going to add result in chapter 2, but chapter 3, but you need to add information which show how or what are the activities that carried out. I mean, for that, I always recommend students during your working on SDB 2, try to record everything you do. You test one sensor with Arduino, record. We test one sensor with Arduino. You test two sensors, record. We test two sensors. I mean, this information will be helpful for you later on to add in your research methodology chapter. I mean, to improve. As we said, research methodology divided into 2 parts because you are going to write research chapter 3 in your proposal, but you are going to update in your thesis later on in SDB 2. So SDB 1, you are going to write a layout or general information about research methodology, general phases, general research methodology, flowchart. But in SDB 2, you are going to update all these things on chapter 3 and continue with chapter 4. So research methodology here need to answer all these questions: what, why, how, where, when, all okay or not? What are you going to do? Why you do this one? How you are going to do it? Where is it in the lab? Is it in the field? When is it in which month? Okay, testing is all okay or not? I mean, your system functionality okay, can achieve the objective or not, can accomplish the objective or not? All these questions can be answered by your research methodology. So you need to explain each phase clearly. If I said to design a system consists of blah 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 components, so I need to design components. What are the components? I need to explain. If I said using Arduino, using Raspberry Pi, I need to have some information about Arduino, some information about Raspberry Pi, some information about the sensor, some information about solar panel, some information about the rechargeable battery. All the components that I am going to use, I need to explain in detail. Then explain detail the method or tool equipment that or materials. So I mean the component that we are going to use, or also software tools. You need maybe to use Proteus, so you need to have some information about Proteus. You need to have some like freezing to draw your circuit. You show the or multisim to draw your circuit. you show some design by using this system and so on. Include research design, research activity, clear flow chart, Gantt chart, milestone, and so on. All these will be a part of your research methodology of chapter 3. Clear and detailed description of simulation modeling, mathematical modeling, algorithm. If you have some coding, some algorithm in the coding, you need to talk about it all here. Testing in the lab, testing in the field, data collection, analysis, parameter metrics, all these things need to be stated clearly in chapter 3. Must be able to achieve the objective and directly link to it. You may have 10 activities. You need to at least 3 of these activities link to the 3 objectives. I mean, maybe objective 1 can be achieved by using 3 activities, but at the end, I can achieve objective 1. Then objective 2 can be achieved by using 3 other activities. So at the end, I'm going to achieve objective 2. Then I have 3 other activities to achieve objective number 3. At the end, I am going to achieve objective number 3. So in this way, I can link my methodology to my research objective, as we mentioned before. Milestones are the result that the project seems to achieve. So you need to indicate, like if we complete in your flowchart, for example, you are going to mention like validation, enhancement and optimization phase, testing phase, like this one. The milestone will be completing of validation, completing of enhancement, completing of the performance evaluation, and so on. So this milestone will be like will be highlighted in your Gantt chart that you need to attach at the end of your chapter 3 in proposal. Also prepare list of the required component and their prices. At the end of chapter 3 for STP1, you need to prepare the list of the component with their prices you need to buy, you need to claim later on from the faculty. I mean, from through your supervisor. I mean, but at least you already come out with the which component you are going to use, which microcontroller, which solar panel, which sensor, which actuator, which motor, which robotic, and so on. I mean, you need to decide and you need to have an idea about the price for these components. So the bibliography and references, this will be the last part of your research proposal, and also the last part of your thesis later on. So it must be up to date, last 3 to 5 years, must be relevant to the topic. Don't cite things which is not related to your topic, must be cited in the text. So anytime you take some paragraph from some papers and you summarize, even you rewrite, you need to cite at least 50 references. I mean, if you are 2 in group, so if each one read like 25 reference or summarize 25 reference for literature review and for chapter 1, you come out with 50 references at least. If you are 3, you cannot come out with 75, 70 references and so on. Then must be formatted and generated using EndNote or Mendeley, because this will help you later on when you write your thesis. You are not need to copy each reference separately. You can just go to Google Scholar, import to EndNote, then cite in the text in the Word. It will be automatically generated at the end of the your proposal or your thesis. Ensure that all articles mentioned in the thesis are listed in your biography. That means you do not cite some reference and not listed at the end. Ensure the bibliography does not give the citation of article which have been mentioned anywhere in the proposal and thesis. Use proper tool like EndNote or Mendeley, and use the reference format which is APA6. So this one is the format that UMB follow for their UMB format. Here are general comments for formatting, and this one is more on writing. If you just use the UMB thesis template, you can achieve all this formatting correctly. But I highlight here some point. You must write the correct title for your project, faculty name, your ID, your supervisor name. Table of content of your proposal or your thesis will be automatically generated based on the UMB template. You are not need to fill up the table of content. It will be automatically generated because it's already coded into the template, so it will be generated. First page of each chapter must have different margin, and each chapter has numbering. For example, chapter 1, each title or subsection will be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Each figure will be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Each table will be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Belong to the chapter. If you do not use the UMB template, so this will not be generated automatically. So you need to generate all these things manually. So it is difficult and it will not generate it correctly. So better to use the template, follow the template, and you can get all the tables automatically generated in the beginning of your thesis. Like table of figures, table of content, all will be automatically generated. Must have table of abbreviation, table in alphabetic sequence, must have table of symbols. Like if you use voltage, so V, current I, power P, energy E. So all these symbols should be also stated in the table of symbols. Confirm that you write in the Times New Roman size 12, spacing 1.5. No abbreviation should be defined in the section or in the subsection title. Abbreviation are defined in full for the first time. I mean, for example, if you use the word like Internet of Things, so then abbreviation will be IoT. This only one time you mention in abstract, one time in the text. Other than that, you use IoT. No need to say Internet of Things anymore. Okay, so if you define the abbreviation one time, you just go with the shortcut for the further writing. Figure caption, also numbering, this all will be, you can just follow. Try, my advice, use the template, copy from the template. If you find the figure in the template, copy the figure caption from the template, and it will be automatically generated for the next figures and so on. Okay, add source under the figure caption. You need to cite the figure and table, as I mentioned before. Must cite the figure and table in the text. Don't say figure, don't provide figure without citation. You should write like in figure 1.1 and you describe the figure. Don't write the figure 1.1 and there is no text. Explain about it or cite about it. Okay. Don't start your section by figure and text. Don't you say, for example, flowchart, then you draw flowchart only. No, you should at least introduce figure 3.1, provide the flowchart for our research methodology. So it will be your flowchart. Okay. Proposal presentation here will be in week 12. I mean, you still have like 4 weeks from now, 1 month, roughly 1 month from now, to present your proposal to the panel. Your panel will be 3 panels, and your presentation will be 15 minutes. You are going to have 15 minutes for presentation and 15 minutes for question and answer. All members should present. I mean, you can distribute the task among you to present. Then what to present? You need to present your research background, problem statement, objective, scope, related work, methodology, expected outcomes, and conclusion of your project. What panel are looking for? I mean, what the panel will ask you about. I mean, after you present, you are going to ask you for 15 minutes. So what they are looking for, better to refer to the presentation rubric in the website. So go to the website, there is downloads page. In the download page, you can find presentation rubric for SDB1. You can see how the presentation rubric, what the panel are looking for, how they want to see your problem, how they want to evaluate, how they are will evaluate your objective, your scope, your methodology, your outcomes, and so on. So it becomes more clear for you to understand or to prepare your presentation to convey the panel to give you a good mark in your presentation for. Thank you.